Hey, what's going on, guys? Aarava here, and welcome back to a brand new video today. And as you can see by the title, today we're going to be talking about a bit of news, the McLaren 2018 car, and this rather odd kind of revelation that's come out of Eric Boulier's mouth about the McLaren team saying that the car they've got right now is not actually the one they wanted to end up with, and that the real car, and essentially a B-Spec, if you will, car, is going to be rocking up for them at the Spanish Grand Prix, typically when most teams do big upgrades. So, usually this kind of news I would kind of wait to do on the podcast, but this was quite a big, juicy piece of news that I felt I wanted to straight away get on it and talk about it, and some opinions about it, and just all to get your kind of thoughts on it. So I want to kind of maybe do this more often in the future as well, you know, these kind of one-off little opinion pieces or little kind of videos about one-off bits of news maybe, and kind of go in-depth a bit with it more, and just generally do more content around the real-life kind of racing that we, all of us, I would assume, love to kind of follow and watch. So let me know in the comments below, guys, if you do want to see more of this kind of stuff by the end of it, if you do enjoy it. So let's dive into it. So McLaren Racing Director Eric Boulier has said the team's definitive 2018 Formula 1 car will make its debut in Barcelona in May, and the clear hope is that it will help to address the team's lack of qualifying pace. So obviously McLaren, a big issue for them has been the one-lap pace, and then also the drag of the car, or slash the straight line speed. It's kind of weird to tell if it is pure drag, which is not the same as a lack of engine power. You can have a powerful engine and also have a very draggy car. If you don't know what that means, is, you know, basically the aerodynamic surfaces create too much drag. There's too much air resistance because, you know, with aero comes air resistance, because you're trying to funnel the air, push it around the car. At the same time, though, that is essentially like almost if you're going, you know, if you're free falling out of a plane and you pull your parachute, that's a big aero, you know, surface the air's hitting to stop you from falling as fast. And that's the exact same thing. Imagine the car going forward down the straight. It's almost like you're falling out the sky, but just sideways. And that's kind of how I like to kind of explain it. But it's a difference of, you know, having a powerful engine, but a lot of drag. And it looks like McLaren have that situation. They have the Renault engine, which is a winning engine now in F1 2018. I mean, the Red Bull car won in China with a place with a very long back straight. So there's no real excuses there in terms of, oh, the Renault engine's still not powerful enough to tackle Mercedes and Ferrari. Red Bull and Daniel Ricciardo showed that dive bombing both Mercedes cars down two different straights, especially Hamilton's one, you know, down the main back straight, Ricciardo and Hamilton. So there's a direct comparison of the engine to engine. Obviously, you can account for a little bit of a difference of performance, factors in terms of the two teams use different oil supplies and fuel supplies. So maybe that factors in a tiny bit, but not that much. You're talking like, you know, a tenth here, maybe, you know, if that, in terms of the fuel supply. So McLaren, you know, they have this issue because if you look at and I mentioned this on the podcast, if you look at the speed traps for Bahrain, I don't know if there's one for China. I'd be very curious if there was for China. If you guys know if there's kind of same kind of graph for China, that'd be very curious. But there's one for Bahrain, which I'm going to bring up right now. And it kind of compared, obviously, the speed trap of across the line as the cars finish their qualifying lap, the two different speed trap times, which I'm assuming are around sector 1 and then some point at the end of sector 3, end of sector 2, I should say, which are potentially maybe not as definitive yardsticks because they're probably just talking about, you know, maybe acceleration zones. And then you're looking at the top speed, you know, on the back straights. And if you compare that and you compare it to McLaren Renault and Toro Rosso Honda, obviously this, you know, the Honda engine that McLaren so many times complained about last season, you can see the McLaren car does get beaten in a few of those speed traps. And so it begs the question, is that McLaren car way too draggy? Is it too inefficient on aero? And that kind of argument also suss into the one-lap pace. You can have a good race car, but you can have a very inefficient one-lap pace car, because a race car is different to a qualifying car, because in the race you've got the fuel, you've got a lot of overtaking being done, you've just got tyre wear coming to effect, and so the McLaren car might be very good on its tyres, might be very good at the fuel management, and so it can go a little bit longer, it can maybe go, you know, a little bit longer on the stints, it can maybe, you know, push a little bit harder on the fuel settings, because it's not as thirsty, maybe the way the car has been set up, or the setups they've gone with, but over one lap, that doesn't cut it. That's not going to cut it. You know, tyre wear doesn't factor into it, or fuel efficiency doesn't factor into it. And it kind of begs the question now, this is do or die. Like, this has got to be it, right? This has got to be it. If McLaren don't rock up to Spain with a very different car that is going to leap them ahead of Renault, of seemingly Toro Rosso when they get their act together. Force India for sure, completely, and get them towards Red Bull, which Fernando Alonso said was their next top target in Australia. He then went to backpedal a little bit at China because he said, "What do you expect? I think you guys are blowing our own trumpets a little bit." But he did say that at the end of Australia, Red Bull has to be the next target, and Red Bull are now winning Grand Prix. And this is why I'm kind of asking you guys, do you want to see more of these videos? Because it's just an interesting thing that I want you to get your ideas on. Of, do you think that McLaren is that inefficient, or do you think maybe it's just pure aero-wise? And then I want to kind of ask the question of, is this this is it? Like, is this it for McLaren? Like, nowhere to hide. The Red Bull Renault car won a race. Is this it? This is kind of like the final nail in the coffin of, if McLaren don't rock up to Spain and are immediately well ahead of Renault and Force India and are maybe trying to snap at the heels of Red Bull, are looking more comfortable at, snapping at the heels, or in that no man's land between, also I forgot Haas as well, of course. How can I forget Haas? They need to leapfrog Haas as well. They need to be in no man's land of too fast for Haas, Renault, Toro Rosso, Force India, but not fast enough for Red Bull, at least. And they need to get in that zone, at least. If they don't do that, can we really class McLaren anymore as a top team, or are they really just a midfield team and we're giving them too much credit? It's kind of like football when a lot of I won't name teams because that's just going to cause a different argument, but certain teams in the Premier League, sometimes in past seasons you've talked about them mentioning their past trophies too much, and they bang on about former glories. Do McLaren do that too much? Do they wrestle on the laurels too much? That's the exact same thing with the podcast me, Callum and Tom have said about Williams in the past, and I do wholeheartedly agree. Williams can no longer consider themselves a big dog in Formula One. Yes, they've got the heritage, but now they've been so low for so many years now and just mediocre, they can't really wrestle on their laurels anymore, and McLaren can't really do that anymore. And so the question is to you guys, is that it? Is that going to be it? Is this going to be the defining moment for McLaren? Or do you genuinely think McLaren could still steadily improve? A few little upgrades here and there, every single, a couple of Grand Prix here and there. And could they get there by the end of the season? I don't know. I'm very skeptical. I used to be a big believer, obviously, because you guys know, if you followed my channel for a while, my one and only driver I supported was Jenson Button. I don't support a driver anymore in Formula One. I don't consider myself supporting any kind of driver as much as I ever did with Jenson. I said that at the podcast. I like certain drivers like Carlos Sainz or Pierre Gasly because, I have a certain soft spot for them. Even Van Dorn, actually, to be fair. And Alonso, I've always kind of admired him, and Daniel Ricciardo. But, and really, if you're talking about it, Sebastian Vettel as well. But I'm never going to support a driver like I did with Button. And I don't support a team. A lot of people think I support McLaren. I only support them because of Jenson. If Jenson if he had moved before he retired, if he had moved to another team, I would have been behind that team. So I've never been a big McLaren supporter, but I've had a, slight little soft spot of that kind of underdog story of they're going to make it through this tough time and they're going to get back there. But honestly, like with Red Bull almost, and to be fair, I jinxed Red Bull because I said I wasn't believing Red Bull's on paper kind of thing of them being that fast after Bahrain's double retirement. What do they go and do? They go and win the race. But so maybe I'm jinxing them, and maybe it's going to be a good thing for McLaren. But, I've always kind of believed eventually they would get there. But I'm becoming so skeptical of this team that they're actually going to do it, because it all just seems like fake promises. Boulier, to kind of read the quote off, said, we missed the schedule targets with it, which means the car we'll have in Barcelona should have been in Australia. So we saw, if you watch the driver documentary on Amazon for last year's car, that was delayed already. They had major issues with the floor on the 2017 car, and they had to kind of delay it because they had to use the one floor they had for a show run at Silverstone, and then they had to kind of rock up to Australia with kind of a bodge job there, and it was a kind of delayed kind of scheduling for that 2017 car. And now this revelation is, maybe we had some kind of inkling, maybe you guys had an inkling of this, but I did not think it was this bad. I thought McLaren had just rocked up with the car. They did not develop as well, and they were going to slap on a load of upgrades for Spain. But the way Boulier is painting this is not the car they wanted, and they are going to bring a totally different car and package to Barcelona, which also has me very, very intrigued about what it looks like. So I can't wait for the Spanish Grand Prix for the tech update about that, because if what Boulier is saying, he's saying we're running an evolution of the car from last year, not the new car. And this car hopefully will be the one that we expect at Barcelona. If that is the case, I'm really looking forward to the tech round up there. But I become so skeptical with this team that I just don't know. I just don't know if this is more hollow words or what. You know, away from all the memes and the joking about McLaren, and you know, people love to joke about them very, snap, snap, snap at the Grand Prix when something wrong goes wrong in Australia. You know, Bahrain when Toro Rosso did so well. But genuinely, I don't have any bad blood towards McLaren or Honda or any of the parties. It's just a case of I've just become so skeptical now because I've had my hopes put up so many times. I had so many hopes put up so many times when Jensen was driving there that now I'm kind of so, you know, I've been attacked so badly in terms of like, I don't know if this team can genuinely get back to the front. But saying that, the things in history are meant to be broken. We've seen Mercedes so far not win in 2018, and there's been the kind of question, are Mercedes resting on their laurels too much? And do they need to reassess how they go about strategy work? Because certainly Christian Horner, and also I think it was Ross Brawn, has criticised Mercedes' strategy work in terms of, especially Ross Brawn was saying his former team, and we need to rethink about how they do strategy work, because clearly they did not pick the right one at China. They didn't really act fast enough. And it's the same with McLaren now. Maybe Merc going down a little bit. Can McLaren actually break their little, nuisance and go back up? A lot of questions to ask, and I'm really curious to know what you guys think in the comments below. As I said, very odd kind of video. I know there wasn't very much point to this video, maybe, but I just saw this article, and I really wanted to talk about it, and I couldn't wait for the podcast, and I wanted to go a little bit more in-depth into it, and kind of talk to you guys about it. To kind of finish off the quotes here, to kind of, if you haven't seen the kind of little tidbits about what Eric Boullier said, because I know maybe, you guys might not catch it in an article or whatever. So Boullier has admitted that the contest with the first 4 races with the obvious restrictions have been frustrating for the team. This is what it is. We knew this, and we just take the best we can. So far, we have been very opportunistic. We take the opportunity we've had with both drivers to take as many points as we could. It's just frustrating to see that we have such performance or pace in the race, and we're unable to unlock yet that performance in qualifying. And if he was excited about the new package, Boullier said no expectations, no needs. He's been long enough in Formula 1 to know when to celebrate, that you only celebrate when you're on the podium or on the top of the podium. So he's still keeping his feet on the ground, but it's going to be very, very intriguing. Obviously, I've said it plenty of times, you guys like to make a joke of it, but I do mention it because there's constantly sometimes new people coming to the channel who might not know. Obviously, I'm an aero student, or I'm a graduate now, so I'm very, very intrigued when things like this crop up, and I am so hoping to be gobsmacked. I want my jaw to drop at Spain when we go there, and it's a complete new car. I really hope that, but let me know if you guys think that will be a reality, or it's just wishful thinking from me and maybe reading too much into Boulier's interview. But bit of a random kind of opinion piece on a piece of Formula 1 news. Let me know in the comments below if you do want to see more of these, maybe, because I've been loving doing the real-life content, the top 5 moments, the podcast, the tech updates. I unfortunately missed the one for China, guys. I missed that just because I did not have enough time. I had some personal issues to take care of on that Thursday, so I could not make a video for that, but we'll be back for Azerbaijan with a tech update. But I've been loving doing the content around the real-life kind of Grand Prix and the sport we love, and you guys seem to be responding to it really well, just as well as with the gaming stuff. So let me know if you want to see more of these kind of opinion pieces, or kind of just, I don't know, just one-off kind of videos where I talk about an interesting part of Formula 1, a bit of interesting news in Formula 1. Yeah, if you did enjoy the video, hit that like button, guys. Let me know what you thought in the comments below, as I said, about any of that stuff I just discussed, and I'll read through and try and reply maybe to some of your comments. If you're new around here, do subscribe for weekly Formula 1 content. I've been aarava. Hope you enjoyed today, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.